Never did I think a member of One Direction would put out one of my favorite rock albums of the year, but that's exactly what Harry Styles did with his self-titled debut. What a surprise that this album was. And I have to admit, when the first single Sign of the Times came out, I wasn't really convinced. Heck, even when the second single, Two Ghosts, came out, I wasn't convinced. But what did convince me that this album was going to be great? Well, it was hearing it all together and hearing all the various vibes that Harry goes for and how they all work for his own unique sense of style. They all feel like Harry Styles songs, not Harry Styles trying to be other artists. And that sense of identity is just really impressive to see from somebody on their first album. From the Bowie-esque Sign of the Times, to the Beatles-inspired Carolina, to the hard-rocking, almost ZZ Top sounding Kiwi, Harry never quite does the same thing twice. And this listen is just so satisfying from front to back. You can now call me a fan of Harry Styles. You can now say I'm extremely excited to see this guy live. And you can definitely say that I'm extremely excited to see what this guy does next. 'Cause I still feel like you're mad. 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 I still feel like you're mad. And now on my list, we have an album that I just related to way too well. It's John Mayer's The Search for Everything. This album not only brought back the crew from Continuum, my favorite John Mayer album, which made me very happy, but also brought back some of John Mayer's classic pop stylings. Don't get me wrong, I thought that his country-leaning album Born and Raised was a very fantastic album, and Paradise Valley was a pretty good album, not as solid, but it had some very good jams too. But it's definitely nice to hear John Mayer shred a solo again on songs like Helpless, Moving On and Getting Over, and Rosie. This album centers along the themes of heartbreak, loneliness, and moving on. And I was pretty much on the verge of tears listening to this album for the first time. Although it is a bit odd to think about the fact that a lot of these songs are possibly written about Katy Perry, one of my favorite people in all of pop, you could just say that. These songs just really, really hit. Something that I found very cool about this album is that we hear hints of John Mayer's entire career in these songs. For example, Love on the Weekend is that classic pop rock singer-songwriter feel that we all know him for. Rosie sounds like it'd be pulled straight from Continuum, complete with a great solo. And In the Blood is almost country-leaning, and in my opinion is one of John Mayer's best songs yet. This album wasn't buzzed about as much as I thought it would be in the media, but as a huge John Mayer fan, I was extremely happy with this project. And it seems like he's pretty happy with how his career is going right now, not being too much in the spotlight, but still making his fans happy like he did with me. One of the amazing things that an album can do is truly put you in a new world and put you inside a person's head. This is where Lorde's Melodrama greatly succeeds for me and why it's my number 3 pick. Jack Antonoff's truly orgasmic production really helps bring this rush of an album to life with screaming highs and rumbling lows. These are some of the most unique and interesting instrumentals that I've heard all year, and I really have to commend Lorde and Antonoff for creating an album that not only sounds like almost nothing else on the market, but truly personifies Lorde's lyrics and feelings. Seriously, just give this album a listen in your car. It is a fantastic night drive. With her second album, we have Lorde telling stories of adolescence, the pains of growing up, battling loneliness and heartbreak. So there are definitely some relatable themes here. Possibly the most emotional moment on this album is a stripped down ballad named Liability. This song is absolutely gut-wrenching, and Lorde's vocal delivery really sells the song. She almost sounds like she's crying singing the song, and it's just truly an emotional listen.
They say you're a little much for me. You're a liability. You're a little much for me.
If you know me, you know that I'm really not one for crazy emotional albums that make you cry, but Lorde's melodrama really encapsulates you into this world of emotion and does not let you go until that last note. This is definitely my pick for Album of the Year at Grammys this year, which it has some fantastic competition for, but capturing this much emotion on only your second album is no easy feat at all. When one of my only complaints about an album was that I did not want it to end, you know it's a very solid album. And that's exactly what The Maine's Lovely Little Lonely is. After hearing that The Maine was putting out an album so soon after the incredible American Candy, I have to admit I was a little worried. But boy was I wrong, and boy did I have no reason to worry. This is easily one of the best front-to-back listens I've listened to all year, and it just flows incredibly. And with an overarching theme of nostalgia, this album really just hit me hard, especially because of the fact that it came out in a very nostalgic part of my life, as I was in my last semester of college and going through the motions of looking back on the last few years. I mean, they even had a song called The Other Half of 23 when I was literally on the other half of 23. It just doesn't get more nostalgic than that. Do you remember the days we were golden? We were Not only is this album lyrically fantastic, but it's seriously some of the most catchy and gripping pop rocks that have come out this entire year. Transitions between songs are just so seamless, and this album doesn't feel like the runtime at all. This is just such a consistently fun, emotional, and interesting album that has some great things to say. And now, before I get into my favorite album of 2017, here are a few honorable mentions that I loved but didn't quite make my top 10. Finally, my favorite album of 2017 was Paramore's After Laughter. Now I know that this album had some very mixed reactions from Paramore fans, but just hear me out on why I adored this album. If you are a lover of rhythm and groove like I am, Paramore's After Laughter was a huge treat. This new era of Paramore lost a great bassist in Jeremy Davis, but gained a fantastic drummer with the return of Zac Farro, which was the reason that I loved Paramore in the first place. I loved Zac's drumming and rhythms, and he was just a fantastic drummer to listen to and helped me get into the genre of pop rock and pop punk. Immediately from those opening marimba sounds of Hard Times, which possibly is my favorite song of 2017, Paramore is drenched in 80s pop and rock vibes, and I really have to commend Taylor York for this album because this was really his baby. He not only wrote all the instrumentals for it, but also sat and co-produced it with Justin Mendel Johnson, who was the producer of Paramore's self-titled album. More than anyone on this era, Taylor York really redefined what Paramore is and did a fantastic job with the instrumentation, especially with his guitar work. Justin Mendel Johnson also played bass on this album, and boy, do I love the bass lines on this. Paramore was never really a bass-driven band, but these bass lines are just so groovy and so full and really drive the songs like no other Paramore songs have ever been driven before. Although this is definitely the poppiest that Paramore has ever been, Hayley's vocal mannerisms are still very classic Paramore, and it still very much feels like Hayley. You can tell it's her. Many criticize this album's lyrical content for being so on the nose and to the point, but I think it kind of worked with the current mental state of the band. It was just such a fun listen. There's so much sound coming from every direction from it. It's so well produced, and I really, really enjoy this new era of Paramore, which is why this is my favorite album of 2017. Well, that'll do it for my top 10 countdown to 2017. Be sure to give this video a like if you liked it and subscribe for more awesome content coming soon. I'm going to be doing a lot of fun stuff with YouTube coming up in the next few weeks, months, and the rest of the year. And please, again, tell me your favorite albums of 2017. There was just so much music that came out that I did not get to listen to nearly as much as I'd like to. Until next time, I'm Maddie. Hope you had a great one.